Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope everyone's doing well. So, today we are going to be going over Jesus, the body language guy's post recently on the Charlie Kirk case, all the evidence against Tyler Robinson, and it's a little snarky and funny. And I don't know if you guys know him. I will leave his channel in the description box, but he's hilarious and I love him. So let's do this. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that okay. So let's do this. The ironclad proof that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. Okay, since I've been blocking Candace Owens' retarded fans left and right in regards to the Charlie Kirk assassination, I thought I should write the be-all, end-all, balls-to-the-wall proof that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. If you've been dealing with her horde yourself, make sure to bookmark this so you have the proper weapon to teabag them with whenever they infest your replies, pushing Candace's hallucinations. Yes, I love that. And the way that I'm going to do it is applying a specific critical thinking tool that would nullify about 90% of the internet's absolute dumbest screaming matches overnight. But nobody teaches it. Not in high school, where they're too busy making you memorize the year some king died of gout. Not in college, and certainly not even in law school, where you'd think not being a total moron would be a core credit. Here's what this is about. You take an idea, you build the shiny golden best case scenario for it, then you flip that B into its exact polar opposite and try to build a case for that. It's that simple. If you can't demolish the opposite version, your original idea is a wet paper bag. Period. No exceptions. This isn't a check your vibes moment. This isn't some, well, everyone's truth is valid hippie drum circle. This is a structural integrity test. It's like stress testing a bridge by driving a fleet of monster trucks across it while simultaneously trying to level it with C4. If the bridge is still standing, you can cross it. If it falls, you're standing on a fever dream held together by spit, confirmation bias, and the hypnotic ramblings of a YouTuber who at any moment could be broadcasting from a padded room. Hey guys, so it's that time where I need to ask you to subscribe to the channel, and if you're already subscribed, just hit the like, please. If you don't do this, I will be abducted by aliens. Thanks! If you want to get fancy, the tuxedo-wearing names for these tools are Falsifiability, Reductio ad Absurdum, and Strong Inference. So those are logic tools. So let's look at some of those. Falsifiability is a standard of evaluation of scientific statements, including theories and hypotheses. A statement is falsifiable if it belongs to a language or logical structure capable of describing an empirical observation that contradicts it. In the case of a theory, it says that given an initial condition, the theory must theoretically prohibit some observations. That is, it must make formal predictions. It was introduced by philosopher of science Karl Popper in his book The Logic of Scientific Discovery. Popper emphasized that the contradiction is to be found in the logical structure alone, without having to worry about methodological considerations external to the structure. He proposed falsifiability as the cornerstone solution to both the problem of induction and the problem of demarcation. Okay, so that's a little overview on that one. Let's do the next word, reductio ad absurdum. In logic, reductio ad absurdum, Latin for reduction to absurdity, also known as argumentum ad absurdum, Latin for argument to absurdity, apological argument or proof of contradiction is the form of argument that attempts to establish a claim by showing that following the logic of a contrary position or argument would lead to absurdity or contradiction. Although it is quite freely used in mathematical proofs, not every school of mathematical thought accepts this kind of non-constructive proof. This argument form traces back to ancient Greek philosophy and has been used throughout history in both formal mathematical and philosophical reasoning, as well as in debate. In mathematics, the technique is called proof by contradiction. In formal logic, this technique is captured by inference rule for reductio ad absurdum, normally given the abbreviation RAA. More broadly, proof by contradiction is any form of argument that establishes a statement by arriving at a contradiction, even when the initial assumption is not the negation of the statement to be proved. In this general sense, proof by contradiction is also known as indirect proof, proof by assuming the opposite, and reductio ad impossible. Okay, so we went over that. Okay, now strong inference. In philosophy of science, strong inference is a model of scientific inquiry that emphasizes the need for alternative hypothesis rather than a single hypothesis to avoid confirmation bias, which is extremely important. Okay, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I have been basically my whole life. That doesn't mean you throw out logic. That doesn't mean you throw out all reasoning, okay? You have to use the same tools that we use for everything else with conspiracy theories as well, because oftentimes the people who are saying them are liars, or they're confused themselves, or they're not applying logic, or they're literally low IQ. So you have to be extremely careful even in the conspiracy world. They even make up false quotes. They make up false documents. You have to be very careful. Let's just say it like that. Okay, so now that we went through all that, let's go back, or let me go back to the article. But I know that nobody gives a shit about Latin, LOL. The I have a job and a mortgage cut to the chase bro version is this. To prove your idea is real, you have to prove it and disprove the mirrored, bizarro version of it. If either leg snaps, the whole thing face plants, even if the first leg looked like it was carved out of granite. Most people only ever do the forward pass. They build a case that feels like a warm hug. It confirms everything they already hate, and they stop. Okay, so what he's talking about there with the forward pass is basically heuristics thinking, which I made a whole video about, which I'll leave up here in the corner. And heuristics thinking is where you don't go deeper into the claim or what's being said. You just go off how you feel and how your brain has made mental shortcuts and labels to things that rearranges stuff sort of like for you without doing deeper thinking. So if you guys haven't seen that video, go check it out. But the mirror test, the bizarro test, is where the intellectual honesty actually lives. It's the dark basement where most conspiracy theories go to get strangled. So let's apply it to a real world nightmare, a big one. September 10th, 2025, 12:23 p.m. Now, this was a little hard for me to read through the first time. I got a little choked up because it sort of goes through the sequence of events. So, fair warning. Charlie Kirk is setting in an amphitheater at Utah Valley University. There are 3,000 people watching. He's doing his American comeback tour, which is basically his high wire act of debating sleep-deprived college kids about the most radioactive topics on the planet while cameras roll. A student named Hunter Kozak asked Kirk how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters in the last decade. Kirk says too many. Kozak follows up with how many mass shooters have there been total. Kirk's last words are counting or not counting gang violence. Then a single bullet hits him in the neck, fired from approximately 142 yards away from the roof of the Losi Center. Kirk is taken to a hospital. He's pronounced dead. He was 31 years old, a father of two, and one of the most influential conservative voices in America. The country lost its mind in about 9 different directions simultaneously. 33 hours later, a 22-year-old electrical apprentice from Washington, Utah, named Tyler James Robinson, surrenders to the Washington County Sheriff's Office. His parents drove him there. He's been charged with aggravated murder and a bunch of other charges too that I go through in this video up in the corner where I read through the charging documents. And the internet predictably can't decide if he did it, if someone else did it, if Charlie Kirk is actually dead, if the Mossad was involved, if it was a false flag, or if the whole thing was staged by people who apparently have nothing better to do than orchestrate the most convoluted assassination plot in American history in broad daylight in front of 3,000 cell phone cameras. So let's do what the internet refuses to do. Let's apply the test. The forward case. Did Tyler Robinson kill Charlie Kirk? I'm going to lay every piece of publicly known evidence on the table. No editorializing, no vibes or feelings, just the receipts. Then I'll go for the fun part, to try to burn the whole effing thing down to the ground. 1. The confessions. This is where it starts and honestly where it could also end. Tyler Robinson did not confess once. He confessed through 5 separate independent channels to 5 different audiences using 5 different communication methods. Channel 1, the note under the keyboard. Before the shooting happened, Robinson left a handwritten note under his computer keyboard at the apartment he shared with his roommate and romantic partner, Lance Twiggs. The note read, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it." After the shooting, Robinson texted Twiggs and told him to look under the keyboard. Twiggs found it. Twiggs photographed it. Twiggs later gave it to the police. So that's an important part that I don't think people realize, because in the beginning we were like, how did the police know what the note says? Well, Twiggs photographed the note before he destroyed it. So he took the note, he read it, he was told to destroy it, he destroyed it, but before he did, he took a photograph of it, and that's what the police have. Read that again. The note was written before the shooting. This isn't a confession after the fact. This is a declaration of intent in his own handwriting, placed in a location only his roommate would find, referenced in a text message sent from Robin's phone. There is no version of a frame job that accounts for a pre-written note under the suspect's own keyboard. Channel 2. The text messages to Twiggs. After the shooting, Robinson and Twiggs exchanged a long series of text messages, and we don't have all of them. They're only showing us bits and pieces of the text message stream, which I go over in one of my Tyler Robinson videos. Robinson told Twiggs he was stuck in Orem and needed to retrieve the rifle from a drop point. When Twiggs asked, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" Robinson replied, "I am, I'm sorry." When asked why, Robinson said, "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate cannot be negotiated out." He told Twiggs he'd been planning it for over a week. He referenced the engraved bullet, saying the effin' messages were mostly a big meme. He joked that if Notice's bulge Owa shows up on Fox News, he might have a stroke. He told Twiggs to delete the conversation and to refuse media interviews and to ask for a lawyer if police come asking questions. So one of his charges is in reference to those actions of asking Twiggs to do all that, because that's tampering with the witness and destroying evidence. So one of his charges actually is because of those actions. Twiggs, who was described by authorities as aghast and shocked, turned over every message voluntarily and was placed under FBI protection until he was spotted in Texas a few days ago. Well, we don't know when the FBI protection ended. We just know he's in Texas now. Channel 3, the Discord group. Robinson was part of a small Discord group of about 30 friends. After the shooting, members of the group started posting about Kirk's death. Some noticed the FBI's surveillance photos looked a lot like Robinson. Robinson joked it was a doppelganger trying to frame him and that they should turn him in for the reward money. Someone told him not to go to any McDonald's in reference to how Luigi Mangione was caught. Robinson replied that he'd better also get rid of this manifesto and an exact copy rifle I have laying around. Okay, so this is really important to think about, because that means that not only did Tyler's parents recognize him, but also his Discord group friends recognized him and mentioned that it looked like him, and then they were joking about it. Then at 8:57 p.m. on September 11th, just 2 hours before turning himself in, Robinson posted, "Hey guys, I have some bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you all for everything. Discord confirmed the message's authenticity and provided it to investigators. Channel 4, his family. Robinson's mother recognized her son in the surveillance photos released by police. His father noticed that the rifle described by authorities matched a gun he'd given his son as a gift, his grandfather's rifle. The father called Robinson and asked for photos of the gun. Robinson didn't send them. His father called again. Robinson implied that he was the shooter, told his parents Kirk spreads too much hate, and said he didn't want to go to prison. He then told his father he was considering. His parents talked him out of it and convinced him to come home. Channel 5, the family friend. Robinson's parents called a retired deputy sheriff who was a family friend. Some sources described this person as a youth pastor who was also a U.S. Marshals Task Force officer. The friend met with Robinson and his parents and convinced Robinson to surrender. Robinson told the friend he had disposed of the clothing he was wearing during the shooting. The friend advised Robinson to bring any remaining evidence with him to avoid a police search of his parents' home. The three of them drove Robinson to the Washington County Sheriff's Office where he was taken into custody without incident. 5 confessions, 5 different audiences, 5 different platforms, text messages, handwritten notes, Discord messages, face-to-face conversations with family, and a detailed exchange with a retired law enforcement officer. The messages contain specific operational details, the location of the hidden rifle, the engraved bullet casings, changing clothes, planning the attack for over a week, wanting to retrieve the weapon before his father found out it was missing. This is the evidentiary equivalent of a guy standing in a room full of security cameras, holding a signed confession in one hand and the murder weapon in the other, while live streaming the whole thing and texting his mom about it. 2. The physical evidence. A university police officer heard the shot, identified it as a rifle by its sound, and immediately started looking for sniper positions. He found a rooftop area about 160 yards from where Kirk was seated. In the gravel on that roof, he found impressions consistent with a person lying in a prone shooting position, marks from elbows, knees, and feet. In a wooded area at the edge of campus along the suspect's escape route, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. It was a Mauser Model 98 .30-06 caliber, equipped with a mounted scope and contained 1 spent round and 3 unspent rounds. This is consistent with a bolt-action rifle being fired once. The spent casing stays in the chamber until the bolt is cycled. The rifle, the towel, the casings, all of it was sent to the FBI lab at Quantico. So the other thing I do believe, I might be wrong about this, but I do believe I remember reading that they also took their own swabs, the state did, to send to their state testing. Robinson's DNA was found on the trigger and on other parts of the rifle body, on the fired cartridge casing, on 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and on the towel. His father confirmed that the gun matched the one he had given Robinson as a gift, originally belonging to Robinson's grandfather. Robinson himself referenced it in the text message. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine, and later I'm worried what my old man would do if I don't bring back Grandpa's rifle. So I think why he says, judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine, is because it wasn't reported that they found the weapon yet. And there's a myriad of reasons why they would do that. One, so the person might come back and get the gun. So we don't technically know when the rifle was found. We just know that they announced it the next day in the morning. So he could have thought that they didn't find it and they weren't going to. Each cartridge had messages engraved on the casings. One read, "Notices bulge, Owa, what's this, a furry beam." Another said, "Hey fascist, catch," with arrow symbols believed to be a video game cheat code. Another had the Italian anti-fascist song Bella Cow. Another said, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." At Robinson's home, investigators found engraving tools believed to have been used to inscribe the casings, along with recently purchased shooting targets. Their surveillance timeline. Investigators tracked Robinson's movements through the campus security camera network. He arrived at 11:51 a.m., entering campus from the north through a tunnel under Campus Drive after parking his gray Dodge Challenger nearby. He was wearing black clothing and walking with a distinctive stiff-legged gait, very little bending in his right leg. The charging documents note this is consistent with a rifle being hidden in his pants. Video shows an individual dropping onto the roof around 12:15 p.m., moving into a prone position. At 12:23 p.m., Kirk is shot. Video then shows the individual getting up and running across the roof, carrying an item consistent in shape with a rifle. The person climbs down from the building, drops the item as they hit the ground, picks it back up, and sprints across Campus Drive, nearly getting hit by a passing van. They then head to the wooded area where the towel-wrapped rifle was later found. A gun store expert later demonstrated on camera for News Nation that concealing a Mauser with a scope in a pant leg is physically possible and does produce the exact kind of stiff-legged gait captured on video. Robinson's own parents identified him from the surveillance photos that police released publicly. His mother thought she recognized him on the news. When she called, Robinson told her he was at home sick, the same excuse he'd used the day before. His father noticed the rifle matched. They confronted him. He eventually admitted it, but there's one more detail that rarely gets mentioned. Okay, now I didn't actually know this. I can't believe I missed this somehow. I didn't know this till reading this article, so I went and looked into it, and it's definitely true. So this is very interesting. But there's one more detail that rarely gets mentioned. Hours after the shooting, that same evening, Robinson went back to the campus. He made contact with a police officer who was guarding the perimeter of the lockdown zone. Robinson reportedly told the officer he needed to get something from near a garage. The officer didn't find this suspicious at the time because hundreds of people had fled during the panic and many left belongings behind. But the officer did a routine check on Robinson's license plate. When investigators later identified Robinson as the suspect, they found that plate check in the system, placing him at the scene hours after the murder, near the exact spot where the rifle was hidden. Robinson had texted Twiggs about this in real time. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they've moved on. And I haven't seen anything about them finding it. The officer's presence stopped him from getting the rifle back. To summarize, Robinson went, well, it might have not been there, right? Because we don't know when they found it. So to summarize, Robinson went back to the crime scene to retrieve the murder weapon, was intercepted by a police officer, failed, and then texted his roommate about the whole thing. The motive. Prosecutors allege Robinson targeted Kirk because of his political expression. Robinson's mother told investigators that over the prior year, her son had become more political and shifted left, becoming vocal about gay and trans rights. Robinson had begun a romantic relationship with his roommate, Lance Twiggs, a biological male who was transitioning genders. Robinson described his own father as having become hardcore MAGA since Trump returned to office. Before the shooting, Robinson mentioned Kirk's upcoming visit to UVU at a family dinner and discussed how he didn't like Kirk or his viewpoints. Across his confessions, Robinson consistently stated his motive. I have had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. He called Kirk someone who spreads too much hate and said there is too much evil and the guy spreads too much hate. He told Twiggs he'd been planning the attack for over a week. He was not enrolled at UVU. He drove approximately 4 hours from Washington County to Orem to do this. Now, the mere bizarro test. Robinson did not kill Charlie Kirk. Now we flip it. We construct the opposite claim and try to make it survive. Idea A. Tyler Robinson did not kill Charlie Kirk. For this to be true, you need all of the following to simultaneously true. 1. The confessions are fabricated, all 5 of them. The text messages to Twiggs were either forged by law enforcement or Twiggs is lying. The Discord messages were faked by Discord or by anyone who hijacked Robinson's account, and Discord itself is lying when they confirmed their authenticity. The handwritten note under the keyboard was planted. Robinson's statements to his parents were coerced or misreported, and the retired deputy who convinced Robinson to surrender is also lying or confused. A criminal law expert at Northeastern University stated flatly that any statement made on social media is attributable to you and admissible as evidence of intent. Another expert said that the messages did not read like anything law enforcement would fabricate. Look, I'm going to be real honest with you guys. If I can't get people to subscribe or like, YouTube will literally send aliens to my house. Do you want me to be probed? I need you to like and to subscribe. Thank you. Discord conducted its own internal investigation and confirmed the account belonged to Robinson, while finding no evidence the attack was planned on their platform. For the confessions to be fake, you need a coordinated fabrication involving Robinson's romantic partner, his Discord friends, his parents, a retired law enforcement officer, and a major tech company, none of whom have any apparent motive to frame a 22-year-old electrical apprentice from a quiet Utah suburb. 2. The DNA is coincidental. Yes, it was his grandfather's rifle, so his DNA being somewhere on the gun isn't inherently shocking. But his DNA was on the fired casing. That's the round that was chambered, fired through an explosive discharge, and ejected on the day of the murder. You'd have to argue that DNA from a prior handling survived the firing process and remained detectable on a spent casing that was also handled by the actual shooter. While theoretically not impossible, this is a stretch that gets thinner the more you think about it. 3. The surveillance video shows someone else. Video captured the suspect entering campus, walking with a limp, climbing to the roof, assuming a shooting position, firing, running across the roof with a rifle, jumping down, and fleeing into the wooded area where the weapon was found. His own parents identified him from this footage unprompted. His mother recognized him on the news. His father recognized the rifle. For the video to show someone else, Robinson's parents both independently misidentified a stranger as their own son. A gun store expert demonstrated the exact gait anomaly produced by concealing this type of rifle in clothing, the same gait visible in the video. 4. The return to the crime scene has an innocent explanation. Robinson was caught on a license plate check near the crime scene perimeter hours after the shooting in the area where the rifle was hidden. His own text messages describe going back to retrieve the weapon. For this to be innocent, Robinson happened to be near the exact spot where the murder weapon was hidden on the same evening of the murder for completely unrelated reasons, and also happened to text his roommate about retrieving the rifle from that area at the same time as some kind of morbid joke or coincidence. 5. The physical evidence at his home is unrelated. Engraving tools matching the inscriptions on the cartridge casings and recently purchased shooting targets were found in Robinson's residence. For this to be irrelevant, someone would have to have planted engraving tools and targets in his home that happened to match the methods and materials used in the assassination. 6. Every behavioral indicator is meaningless. Robinson fled the scene, changed his clothes, hid the murder weapon, attempted to retrieve it, instructed his roommate to delete evidence and refused to talk to the police, considered offing, and turned himself in through a retired deputy sheriff after his parents confronted him. For all this to be consistent with innocence, you'd need to explain why an innocent man destroys evidence, coaches witnesses to obstruct justice, contemplates over something he didn't do, and surrenders to the police through legal intermediaries. There is no construction of innocence that accounts for this behavioral pattern, where the inverse has any oxygen at all. There are exactly 2 areas where critics have found traction, and neither actually challenges whether Robinson pulled the trigger. 1. The missing surrender video. A public records request revealed that Washington County Sheriff's Office no longer has the surveillance footage of Robinson arriving to turn himself in. The 30-day retention period lapsed and the video was never sent to any other agency. So here's the thing with this, though, that I have to say. So, because I remember looking into all this. So I guarantee you that the prosecutor's office sent people over to capture that video, because I've watched a lot of trials and it has to be done in a specific way that retains the metadata. So they actually have to pull it from the system in a particular way, meaning the Washington County Sheriff's Office wouldn't have sent it to any other agency because it would have been picked up by a person that does that for the prosecutor's office within days. They would have done this. So somebody a month later asking for it through FOIA request is going to get the message back from the county sheriff's office that they no longer have the surveillance footage because of the 30-day retention period, and that it wasn't sent to another agency. I don't remember it saying that, but either way, that doesn't matter. So we actually technically don't know if they have that or not. That's sort of up in the air. Just because the Washington County Sheriff's Office doesn't have it and they never sent it anywhere doesn't mean that the prosecution team didn't already pull it. So I just wanted to add that in there. A defense attorney called this very concerning. Is it sloppy? Yes. Does it prove Robinson didn't do it? No. It's a procedural failure in evidence preservation, not a substantive challenge to the mountain of evidence, placing Robinson at the scene with the weapon, the motive, and the confessions. 2. The conspiracy ecosystem. Online theories about second shooters, professional hits, Mossad involvement, false flags, hand signals in the crowd, and coordinated plots have exploded. Conspiracist YouTubers attend pretrial hearings. Robinson's own defense attorney asked investigators in court whether they had looked into alternative theories. Roger Stone said it looked like a professional hit. Russian state media amplified theories about suspicious gestures. Anti-Semitic accounts pushed narratives about Israeli involvement. Candace, at a bare minimum, suggested that Kirk was killed because he was about to abandon the pro-Israel cause. The only problem, none of these theories have produced a single piece of verifiable counter evidence. Not one photograph, not one forensic finding, not one witness statement. They are built entirely on misinterpreted crowd videos, recycled footage from other shootings. One viral escape video was actually from a completely different shooting in Reno, Nevada a month earlier, and the deep human need to believe that when something terrible happens, the explanation must be proportionally complex. Because a 22-year-old with his grandpa's hunting rifle and a collection of meme-engraved bullets doesn't feel big enough to explain the assassination of one of the most powerful conservative voices in America. So people invent bigger explanations, not because the evidence supports them, but because the simplicity of the truth is psychologically unsatisfying. The verdict. The forward case passes. DNA surveillance, 5 independent confessions, physical evidence at his home, behavioral indicators, motive, opportunity, and the suspect's own parents identifying him. Every piece reinforces every other piece. There are no orphan data points, no evidence that contradicts the rest. The inverse collapses completely. To maintain Robinson didn't do it, you need simultaneous fabrication of his partner, his Discord friends, his parents, a retired law enforcement officer, and a major tech company. You need DNA on a fired casing to be coincidental. You need his own mother and father to have misidentified their son. You need surveillance video, text messages, a handwritten note, engraving tools, and shooting targets to all be planted or irrelevant. You need an innocent explanation for fleeing, hiding evidence, coaching witnesses, returning to retrieve a murder weapon, and surrendering through a legal intermediary. Each individual alternative explanation requires a stretch. Combined, they require a conspiracy so vast, so perfectly coordinated that it would be, by a wide margin, the most impressive intelligence operation in American history, pulled off flawlessly in real time in front of 30,000 witnesses and hundreds of cameras with 0 leaks, and the only beneficiary being the framing of an electrician's apprentice from southern Utah whose ACT score was in the 99th percentile, but who apparently nobody in the intelligence community had ever heard of. This bizarro test doesn't just fail there. It collapses so hard it leaves a Dragon Ball-sized crater. But now that we've gotten this far, why this matters beyond this case? The point of this exercise isn't just justice for Charlie Kirk. Tyler Robinson will have his preliminary hearing in May 2026. Eventually, a jury will see the evidence. The legal system will do its work. The point that I want to make with this exercise is the tool. Most of us walk through life doing only the forward pass. We hear a claim, check if it makes sense, and if it does, we believe it. That's how conspiracy theories work. Someone builds a narrative and it sounds coherent. You feel smart for seeing the pattern. You give yourself a tap on the shoulder, and then you stop. The mirror test forces you to build the counter narrative with the same rigor. And the moment you do, you discover something uncomfortable. Most of the ideas you've accepted were never stress tested. They just had good storytelling. In this case, the evidence against Robinson is so overwhelming that the inverse is almost comically impossible to construct. That's rare, and in most real-world arguments about politics, about business strategy, about your personal beliefs, the inverse survives much better than you'd expect. And when it does, that's information. That's a signal telling you that your original idea is weaker than it feels. The next time someone hands you a confident claim, don't just ask, does this make sense? Ask, can I build a coherent version where it's not true? If yes, without stretching, your forward case is weaker than it feels. If no, if the opposite collapses under its own weight, you're probably standing on solid ground. The bridge holds, drive the truck, and for F's sake, don't fall for grifters who will make any sort of conspiracy theories just for clicks, profit, and fame. That's the only way we can keep these spaces moderately sane. Good luck, much love, and bliss. Jesus Enrique Rosas, the body language guy. So I thought that article was just so well put together, humorous, and it laid everything out in a perfect order. And I just thought I would share it with you, my YouTube peeps. Let's see what the comments are under this, just for fun. My good friend Benjamin Schultz says, thank you, good sir. Unfortunately, the Cantifa cult cannot read, nor can their leader comprehend words. Love You Say says, excellent, thank you for this. I did not know about him returning and the officer running his plate. I didn't know that either. Thank you, someone had to say it. Okay, here's a candy cult. I'll save you some time. Candace Owen still has the lion's share of evidence. This guy presents the family, the long debunked Discord group. It's not debunked. And evidence planted by the FBI. But Candace has feelings and dreams. Okay, so this person doesn't know how DNA works. Robinson's DNA was found on the trigger and other parts of the rifle body and on the cartridge casing and on 2 or 3 unfired cartridges and on the towel. This is a major red flag. You're telling me they found hair follicles, saliva, or blood from Tyler Robinson on the trigger, other parts, blah, blah, blah. If true, extremely staged, buddy. Nice try. Oh my gosh. They don't know what touch DNA is, which is used every day in courts. That's hilarious. I don't know where, it blows my mind. Some of these people just don't know how anything works. It's like crazy to me. So the shooter disassembled the rifle on the roof, and after the shot, screwdriver was found at the shot location, but this video shows shooter running up 3 seconds after, and so yeah, because that's not true. Like he did not disassemble the rifle on the roof after the shot. The rifle was already disassembled in his pant legs in 2 parts. He got on the roof, and as the charging documents say, which we read through on this channel, he put the rifle back together behind a wall, and then he came out from back behind the wall and crawled into a shooting position. It only takes like one or 2 screws to put that rifle back together. There are videos of that happening that I've played on my channel where it's like in under a minute you can put that rifle back together. So, and then he didn't take it apart. He wrapped it in a towel and ran and jumped off the roof. Excellent summation. I'm still surprised the FBI hasn't made Candace their main investigator for this case. I mean, she doesn't know, but she knows. Well, see, the FBI isn't the main investigators on this case anyway. It's the state of Utah. Thank you for being a voice of sanity and logic. Okay, so that's probably good. Okay, well, I appreciate everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed reading through that. I certainly did. I found it very well written, hilarious. Love the body language guy. I will leave the link to his channel and the link to the article from X in the description box. If you guys enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel, please. That would mean a lot to me. Leave your comments below on what you think about the article and your thoughts. Well, that's the end of that video, and I'll see you next time on The Eclectic Journalist.